y'all, I'm Luigi and welcome back to my channel. Today what we're going to do is we're going to sit down and build a team for Series 9 VGC together. So since Pokemon Sword and Shield has come out for Switch, VGC has been going through these iterations of different series on the ranked ladder, and each series has a different rule set. So currently it's Series 8 right now, and you can have one restricted legendary on your team, and when we go to Series 9, starting on May 1st of this year, we will no longer be allowed to have any restricted legendaries on our team at all. We'll be back to basically the same rules we had in Series 7 at the beginning of the year. So what I need to do is design a new team to use on the ranked ladder in VGC for Series 9, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to sit down and build a team together so you can kind of see what my process is for building a new team, how I test and prove out different concepts, and how I build the team on the cartridge. So if you want to know more about how I do that, stick around. What I use to test out different concepts is Pokemon Showdown, and I'll put a link to this website down in the description so you can get right to it. First thing we need to do is we need to come over here to the team builder section so that we can start building a team. So if you don't have any teams built yet, this is what it'll look like. I'll click new team right here to get started, and we need to decide what format we're going to be using. So if I scroll down here to Sword and Shield doubles, you can see there's a lot of VGC options. What I'm going to pick is VGC 2021 Series 9. So we're going to start by adding Pokemon. Now, I have a few Pokemon that I already have built in the cartridge that I plan to use on this team, so I'm going to go ahead and add those really quickly, starting with my support Pokemon. So Whimsicott is a very good support Pokemon. Prankster means that all of its support moves get +1 priority, and I'm actually going to run an eject button on this Whimsicott. We've had a lot of fun with eject button Whimsicott in Series 8, and I definitely want to keep that fun going in Series 9. The moveset for this Pokemon is going to be Tailwind, Taunt, Moonblast, and Switcheroo, of course, so that we can play with the eject button. And the EVs on this Pokemon, as it is in the cartridge, is max speed, max HP. I think it's got like 4 special defense. And then the nature is timid. So you can kind of see what I did here. Basically, what I do is I pick the Pokemon. The ability is usually already picked, but you can change it if you need to. Then I select the item that I'm going to use on that Pokemon. I pick the moveset, and then finally what I do is I come in and choose the nature and the EVs that I want on this Pokemon. I had a great core that I used to bring to a lot of teams in Series 7 in Lilligant and Torkoal, and I'd like to bring that back and see how it works for me in Series 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick Lilligant here. The item I use on Lilligant is Wide Lens. Now this increases the accuracy of attacks, and it's very important that we use that because Sleep Powder then goes from a 75 to an 85% accurate move, and that 10% increase in accuracy is really crucial. Chlorophyll is ability. This means if sunlight is active, then the Pokemon's speed is doubled, which is super great for helping us outspeed other Pokemon and putting them to sleep before they even have a chance to move. So the moveset on this Pokemon is Protect, Sleep Powder, After You is also great for making sure that Torkoal can move first if it needs to. After You Eruption is a super great combination that I love to use a lot. And then the final move is going to be Leaf Storm if we need Lilligant to be able to put any kind of attack power out there. Again, speed is really crucial. This is not a Pokemon that hits very hard, and so it really needs to outspeed every Pokemon on the field so that it can get its Sleep Powders and its After Use off. And since we're not planning to use the Leaf Storm move super often, I'm going to go with max HP instead of special attack. And again, I'm going to choose Timid as the nature, so I'm going to put a plus on speed and a minus on attack. Now you'll notice that Pokemon Showdown here is automatically adding a 0 IV to any Pokemon that does not have a physical move on it. This is intentional. We want our Pokemon, if it's a special attacker and not a physical attacker, to be taking as little damage as possible from attacks like Foul Play, and if the Pokemon is confused and hits itself, because both of those damage calculations actually rely on your own attack stat. So we want that attack stat to be as low as possible on special attackers who aren't using their attack stat anyway. To pair with Lilligant, we're going to make Torkoal right here. Now, because Torkoal will primarily be just using Eruption and Flamethrower, its 2 strongest moves in the sun, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a Charcoal on him as the item so that his fire type attacks will have 1.2 times the power. And then the moveset is again pretty standard. We're going to run Protect, Eruption Flamethrower so that we have an option for when Eruption is no longer going to do as much damage, because Eruption's power is actually based on how much HP you have. So if Torkoal has lowered HP, Eruption will also do lowered damage. And then finally, we're also going to run Earth Power for coverage. And then because Torkoal is very slow, we actually want it to have the lowest speed possible. Specifically, if we run into a situation where the opponent is trying to set up Trick Room, we can bring Torkoal in, and Torkoal will likely be the quote-unquote fastest thing on the field moving first in most situations. So we're actually going to want a 0 IV on Torkoal here. And we're going to want to max its special attack, max its HP, and then we can do our extra 4 EVs on special defense. So the nature that I want is actually going to be plus special attack minus speed. That's a quiet nature. So we're going to add Lander's Therian, and we're going to give it Life Orb, Intimidate, which is its only option. Its moveset is Protect, Fly, Earthquake, and Rock Slide, which is pretty standard moveset for Landorus T. And because it's so strong and fast already, what we're going to do is we're just going to max attack, max speed, and then put our extra 4 EVs into HP. And I'm actually going to run a Jolly Landorus instead of an Adamant because I find that extra boost of speed is very helpful. Now, if you know the name of the nature you want, but you maybe don't know which stats it affects, instead of putting the plus and minus here in the EV text box, you can actually look at this drop down here next to nature and choose the one you want as well. So that's the second way to pick the nature you want on your Pokemon. Next up, we're going to do Darmanitan, the Galarian form, and we're going to run Choice Band, Guerrilla Tactics, and the moveset we want here is going to be obviously Icicle Crash, Brick Break to deal with Grimmsnarl, setting up screen, Iron Head because flinches are always nice, and U-turn in case we need to pivot out. And then again, this is a very hyper offensive Pokemon, not a lot of bulk, so I'm just going to go for max attack, max speed, and we'll put our extra 4 in HP here. And again, I'm going to go for Jolly Nature because that extra speed is really crucial, because Darmanitan already hits hard enough with Guerrilla Tactics and Choice Band. It really doesn't need to be Adamant. For the last Pokemon on the team, I want to try something new. This is not a Pokemon that I've used before really in competitive, but with so many Intimidates running around with lots of Incineroars and Landoruses, I think it would be really fun to play around with competitive Milotic. Now, I actually have a shiny Milotic already on cartridge. It's the first Pokemon I ever shiny hunted, so I think it would be really cool to be able to use that in competitive. So the items I'm going to go with for now are Leftovers, and the ability I'm going to choose is competitive. Now this means that anytime a stat for the Pokemon is lowered, meaning it gets hit with an Intimidate or a Parting Shot or even a stat drop from a Dynamax move, its special attack is going to be raised by 2, which is really critical because a stat being raised by 2 basically doubles it. So I'm going to go for competitive as the ability, and my moveset is actually going to be Protect, Icy Wind, Muddy Water, and we're going to go with Weather Ball as well because I think there's some cool synergy there between Torkoal and Milotic. Milotic could actually really threaten grass-type Pokemon if it happened to show up in the sun. Now, the EV spread on this Milotic is going to be a little bit interesting, I think. We are going to go for max special attack and modest natures. But we aren't going to max speed, specifically because a lot of the time I expect we'll be under Tailwind conditions because we have our Whimsicott here who can set up Tailwind for us very easily. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make sure that my Milotic outspeeds Landorus at +1. So I'm actually only going to raise my speed up to 106. And so at 106 under Tailwind, my speed stat will actually become 212, which lets me outspeed a lot of critical Pokemon. And then we're also going to raise the HP. Now, keep in mind that we have Leftovers as our item, and Leftovers is going to restore 1/16 of our HP every turn. And this does not round up. So what I mean by that is I want my HP stat to be a number that is divisible exactly by 16. So I get the maximum regeneration from Leftovers without wasting too many EVs into HP points that may not matter as much. 192 is exactly divisible by 16, so that is how high I'm going to bring my HP investment. And then the rest of those EVs we're going to dump into defense and special defense. Now, this is an important note here. You see I dragged the bar all the way to 48, but then it jumped back to 44. That's because those extra 4 HPs here didn't actually change my defense stat. I'm at 105 whether I'm at 44 or whether I'm at 48. So I don't want to waste those 4 EV stats, so I'll go ahead and put them into special defense because that gets me a boost right here. I go from 145 to 146 on special defense. And kind of a rule of thumb here is you never want to be invested in an even number of stats because that means you're kind of wasting some of your EVs. You could remove 4 EVs from one of these stats, most likely, and put it in another stat to get an extra 1 point boost to your overall stat total. So now that I've completed all of my team, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to the team slot, just double check that everything looks good. I can give it a name here if I want, and I'm going to click the validate button. And that'll just check and make sure that we're not breaking any of the rules for the series. Okay, so I built my team. I want to make sure it's going to work, right? I don't want to build a team and then make it in cartridge and put in all of that work if the team is not even going to really work in real life. So what we can do now is back on the home page of Pokemon Showdown. We can come here and we can pick Sword and Shield Doubles VGC 2021 Series 9, the same format we built the team in, and we can battle people randomly. And there we go. That's the end of this one. So we did win that one pretty easily, which makes me think this is a fairly good team. Now, what I would normally do is run a few more tests, you know, try out different combinations of Pokemon, see what's working for me, what's not working for me. I've actually already done a lot of that off camera. So I know that this is a fairly good team, and I think this is the team that I'd like to build on cartridge to go ahead and use in the ranked ladder. So since all of these other Pokemon have already been built in the cartridge in the game, what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on just making one of them. We're going to make Milotic competitively viable according to what I've laid out here on Showdown. Okay, so we're just going to take a look here in our Pokemon boxes to see what we've got to work with. So I've got a Milotic here. This is the one that I shiny hunted a very long time ago. So this Pokemon is actually very close to what I already want. It's holding the item leftovers. It has the ability competitive, and its stats, let's take a look at them. Now, this Milotic does not have a 0 attack stat. It's a decent attack stat. I talked earlier about how special attackers want a 0 attack IV so that it takes less damage from confusion and foul play. That's the case if you want the most optimal Pokemon ever. It's not really necessary for most situations because Milotic is not weak to dark type attacks, and confusion is not very common in the competitive scene right now. You can get by without having a 0 attack IV special attacker. You absolutely do not need one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you how you would get a 0 IV attack if you wanted one, but I'm not actually going to do it on this Pokemon here. So what you would do is you would get a Pokemon you want to breed off of. In this case, it would be a Milotic or a Feebas. And you're going to want a Ditto that has the IVs that you want. So in this case, I do have a Ditto that has all best IVs and 1 no good on attack. So if I wanted a Milotic with 0 attack stat, I would take this Ditto and I would take this Milotic and I would put them together in the nursery, and the Ditto would be holding a Destiny Knot like this one is right here. And the Destiny Knot ensures that the baby Pokemon from the nursery will take 5 of its IVs from the parent's IVs. And then the 6th IV is randomly chosen. And you just kind of have to keep breeding until you get the IV you want. And every time you get a baby that's a little bit closer to the IV you want than the parent you have in the nursery, you kind of replace it. And you keep going step by step until you get that perfect Pokemon that has all 6 IVs exactly the way you want it. Now, something else to consider is the nature as well. So let's check the nature on this Pokemon here. It says it's a calm nature. We can fix that in breeding if we wanted to. So what we would do is if we got a baby Feebas from our breeding that had the modest nature already, we could give that Feebas an Everstone and then make it the new parent in the nursery. And then all the babies of that Feebas holding the Everstone will have the same nature as the parent, meaning modest in this case. I don't really want to do that, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the battle tower and we're going to buy a mint. Because it's a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, and if you have the battle points to do it, don't feel bad about just using a mint. And we're going to talk to the woman on the left-hand side. She's the one who sells us the mints. So we'll come here and we'll say, hello, I want a modest mint. It looks like I already have one in the bag, actually. So I'm not going to buy one just now. I'm going to just use the one that I have in the bag. So I'm going to pick it up and sort by name to make sure that I can find it easily. And we're going to the M's for modest. LM modest mint. Okay. And we're going to give it to Radish, our Milotic here. And now when I come to look at Radish's summary in the Pokemon, we can see that it will now have its stats changed. So if you come to look at the nature, it's still going to say a calm nature. But if I come over here, you can see that now it has a raised special attack and a lowered attack instead of a raised special defense and a lowered attack. And so that's kind of cool because it tells us what the actual nature is instead of the nature it was sort of born with. Now, the other thing that you can do in the battle tower is you can hyper train your Pokemon. So if I come back to the box area where you can see the stats, if you look at the Milotic, you can see that the special defense IV stat says hyper trained on it. Now, anytime you hyper train a stat, it basically makes it the same as a best stat. This stat will not pass down if you try to breed it. It won't be a best stat if you try to pass it down. But in competition, it will act as if it was a best stat. And to do this, to hyper train your Pokemon, they need to be level 100. Once they're level 100, you can talk to this guy right here on the right side of the battle tower, and he'll say, do you want to hyper train your Pokemon? And you say yes. And then you select the Pokemon you want to hyper train. In this case, it would be the Milotic. And you need to give him a couple of different items to do it. So you need either a regular bottle cap, like this, or a gold bottle cap. Now, a regular bottle cap is good for one stat. So let's say I want to hyper train the attack stat on my Pokemon, and that's it. I would use one bottle cap. A gold bottle cap will raise all of the stats of your Pokemon. Keep in mind that you do not want to use a gold bottle cap if you're using it on a Pokemon that must have a 0 IV stat. This means Trick Room Pokemon that need a minimum speed or special attackers that need a minimum attack stat. You do not want to use a gold bottle cap on those because it will also hyper train those stats that you wanted to be lowered. So now that I figured out the nature and the IVs, we're going to take a look at the moveset for this Milotic. And I know it's not correct right now, so I'm going to come into the bag and I'm going to set it to be what I want it to be. So first off, this Milotic does not currently know Protect, and it needs to for competitive. So I'm going to come down here to my Protect move, and I'm going to teach it right here. We're going to replace Recover with Protect, and we're going to replace Coil with Icy Wind. We're going to replace Hydro Pump with Weather Ball. And it already knows Muddy Water, so that's great. So now we've taken care of the item on Milotic. We've taken care of the ability. Keep in mind, if the ability on a Pokemon that you've bred is not the ability you want, you can either use an ability capsule, which switches abilities between the two non-hidden abilities on a Pokemon, or you can use an ability patch to switch your Pokemon's ability to the ability that is the hidden ability on a Pokemon. We've also taken care of the moveset on the Milotic, and we've taken care of the nature. The last thing that we need to take care of are the EVs, the effort values on a Pokemon. Now, right now, you can see that I've EV'd my Milotic for maximum bulk. It's max HP, it's got a ton of special defense and defense investment, and not so much special attack investment. And I want to redo that to match the EVs that we chose earlier when we were in Showdown. So what I'm going to do is, if you have the DLC, the Isle of Armor DLC, you can actually reset the EVs on your Pokemon back to 0. So we are going to go ahead and travel to the Isle of Armor, and we're going to talk to the woman who does that. Okay, so we're standing outside the dojo right now. The woman who refreshes your EVs and sets them back to 0 is on an island in the workout sea. So we're going to come out here, we're going to go into the ocean on our floating bike, and we're going to come talk to the woman on the island right here. We're going to come here, and we're going to talk to her, and we're going to say, yes, I will give you 10 Armorite ore in exchange for resetting the EVs right here on my Milotic. Then what we can do is we can go back to the dojo to purchase vitamins to set the EVs the way that we want it. So, I'm going to put up here a reminder of what the EVs are that we're looking for on the Milotic, and we're going to go through the process of adding them to, we're going to go through the process of setting up Milotic to get this complicated EV set correct. Each vitamin adds 10 EV points, up to 252 points. That's the maximum you can have in any stat. So if we were to add 26 calcium to Radish right now, we'll have 252 EVs because we've maxed out there. We can't put any more. So we're going to go ahead and do that first since it's the easiest one. Now we're good on special attack. Now we need 172 HP EVs. So we're going to do 17 HP up. That'll be 170 EVs. And then we need to add 2 more. We can either do this by going and killing some Pokemon, or we can use the feathers that show up on those big bridges in the Galar region. So if we need 2 HP EVs, we'll put 2 of the feathers on Milotic. Each feather is good for 1 EV. So we're going to come here and we can confirm, 2 feathers. There we go. So now we have 172 EVs. Now we need 44 defense. So that's going to be 4 irons. There we go. And 4 feathers. Next, we need 4 special defense. So let's find special defense here, and we're going to put 4 feathers. And finally, we need 36 speed. Now, we actually don't need to do 3 speed vitamins and 6 feathers, because now this is our last stat. Remember that you can only have a maximum of 510 EVs on your Pokemon as a whole, so there's no way that we will go over the 36 EVs we need on speed stat. So instead of splitting it between the vitamins and the feathers, what we can do is we can just put 4 of the vitamins on, and it will automatically max itself out here. It'll put as many EVs as it can until it's maxed out. So now if we come back to the Pokemon here, we can check the summary, and if we come to look at Milotic stats here, I'm pressing the X button to switch between the stat view and the EV view, by the way. Now you can see that we've maxed out special attack, we've nearly maxed out HP, and we have a smattering of investment in some other stats, specifically defense and speed. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you had fun sitting down, building a team with me, seeing how it works, what doesn't, what we might want to change, how to build that team in cartridge, and then how to test it out even further in cartridge. I hope to see you guys in Series 9. I hope you have a good time fighting against my team. I'm excited to see what teams you build in Series 9. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you want to tell me what Pokemon you're excited to use in Series 9 that maybe weren't so viable in Series 8. And until next time, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. And I'll see y'all later. Bye!